Welcome to the Delmarva Almanac. Each week we connect you to the best of Delmarva. I'm your host, Dana Kester McCabe. Susan Mayberry is a Queenstown artist with an eclectic set of mediums. She makes her living primarily as a muralist. She also accepts commissions for faux finishes and oil paintings, and she produces fine art crafts. When I spoke to her recently in her studio, she told me about her beginnings as an artist.
I studied at the University of Maryland in College Park and studied art and art history, and I studied African art and just modern art. I studied painting and wood sculpture mostly, and I'm fascinated by all sorts of processes, I think. But I started working on a big house, a mansion, with a company, and they were renovating it and doing all kinds of wonderful, amazing decorative painting. We spent, months in one room just layering and adding detail, and that was really quite an experience. And there are a lot of places that I've worked that are inspiring to have been in. But that brought me over this direction to toward the Eastern Shore, and then I met my husband, moved over here, and have been fascinated by nature and everything that I've discovered after moving here and learned about. My children went to school in Queen Anne's County, and they got involved with a birding program, so we traveled around the shore down to Cambridge a lot, and then participated in the World Series of Birding in Cape May, New Jersey, which was incredible. So I constantly learning, about nature, about everything in this area, the history, the culture. It's fascinating.
Faux finishes are surfaces painted to look like stone, wood, or other textures. Marble finishes were quite popular for a while. Now Susan says the fashion has shifted, and she finds herself creating metallic finishes like brushed gold or pewter. Each project is an opportunity to meet someone new and learn something.
Generally, the faux finishes I've done, the paint is rolled on and it's taken off in a negative fashion with a rag or plastic or paper, all sorts of different things that you can use to manipulate the paint and move around the wall as quickly as you can. I've done some interesting plaster techniques and Venetian plaster, which is polished. That's very labor intensive. It's a lot of layers. Most of the time people have a good idea of what they're looking for, and I'm able to work with them, and I usually provide sample boards of the idea they've come up with, whether it's a textured wall or an idea for a mural that they have. And I tend to err to the subtle side of things. But I'll provide them with a drawing and an idea of what it will cost, and it's really fun, and it's wonderful to meet people and go into their homes and make something new or beautiful, or really make them happy. I do approach things from an intellectual perspective, and then I try to not let that interfere too much with the process, and try to let my emotions or the spiritual ideas sort of flow or take over. I would say it's sort of light and ethereal is the way that I like to try to come across, and detailed. I like to layer a lot of sheer layers of color so that it's subtle, and you can't, it just brings about a warmth that you can't necessarily see right off the bat. I will pull up photographs. Yeah, my memory is not always right in tune that I can pull that right out of my head, so I like to have a visual reference, and then I will come up with a drawing and use that to work from. I think in the past I've done things from my imagination. That's something as an artist you always struggle with, back and forth, I've tried to do plein air painting outside too, just for my own self. I've taught children's classes locally, and that was an interesting experience on the Gunston campus. And the kids really enjoyed being outside. That's what we discovered. I also have been teaching some classes at the local arts council. I taught a cloud painting class and paper marbling.
Susan also makes ornaments from blue crab shells left over from steamed crab feasts. These are cleaned, dried, and painted, and then finished with an enamel resin. The paintings are usually of animals and birds. Her clever designs make use of the crab shell points to accentuate feathers or fur. Nature is Susan's biggest influence, and this is evident in the other crafts she makes, particularly sea glass mosaics.
Well, I collected a lot of sea glass locally. My children and I did, and I wanted to find a way to use it, and with my love of nature, I decided to make the designs and the shapes of animals and critters that are around the bay and just have fun with it. And I started to make them in 2007. Our town, Queenstown, had a 300th birthday. So they had a big festival and craft fair. So I started selling them there, and I've been making them ever since.
Find out more about Susan Mayberry at susanmayberry.com. Well, that's all for this edition of the Delmarva Almanac. Be sure to follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and next week join us to learn more about our local culture and get connected to our natural wonders. We'd like to thank our community partners, the Friends of Delmarva Public Radio, and our underwriters for their help in bringing this program to you, our audience. If you'd like to become an underwriter for this program, visit delmarvaalmanac.com/support. Our theme music was provided by Brightside Studio. This show has been a Moonshell production. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, may the rhythms and tides of Delmarva bring you good fortune.